Dangerous Obsession. Episode 3, Saturday night. The car arrived at exactly 8. Not 1 minute early. Not 1 minute late. Exactly 8 o'clock, black and silent outside her father's gate, the driver stepping out without being called like he'd been precisely calibrated to the second. Zara watched from her bedroom window. She had been ready since 7:30. She wasn't going to think about what that meant. The dress was deep navy, fitted through the waist, modest enough to be appropriate, elegant enough to be intentional. Her hair was down, the way she wore it when she wanted to feel like herself rather than Kazim Malik's decorative daughter. Small gold earrings. A single bracelet. Nothing that said I tried too hard. Everything that said I know exactly what I'm doing. She wasn't sure either of those things was true. Her father was waiting at the bottom of the stairs. He looked at her the way fathers looked at daughters when they were proud and terrified in equal measure, a complicated look that contained entire conversations he didn't know how to start. "You look beautiful," he said. "Thank you." A pause. "Be careful." "I'm always careful." With him, he stopped. Started again. With him, careful means something different. He notices everything, Zara. Everything you say, everything you don't say. The way you look at him. The way you look away. His jaw tightened. Don't let him see too much. She kissed her father's cheek. "I'll be home by midnight." He didn't look convinced. She went anyway. The restaurant didn't have a sign. That was the first thing she noticed. The car pulled up to a building on a quiet street in the oldest part of the city, beautiful in the way old things were beautiful, all dark stone and arched windows with amber light bleeding through them, and there was no name anywhere. No menu in the window. No queue outside. Just a door, and a man who opened it before she reached it, and inside. Inside was the most beautiful room she'd ever been in. Small. Intentionally small, maybe 10 tables, each one separated by enough space to make them feel entirely private, lit by candlelight that made the whole room glow like the inside of something warm and alive. Dark wood. Deep colors. Flowers she didn't recognize on every table, white and faintly luminous in the candlelight. And at the far table, the one in the corner with the best view of the entire room, Dante. He stood when she entered. She hadn't expected that. She didn't know why she hadn't expected it. It was a simple, old-fashioned courtesy, the kind of thing that had gone out of fashion sometime in the last century, but something about it stopped her for half a second. This man who commanded empires and made her father nervous and sent black roses without explanation, standing up when she walked in. Like she was someone worth standing for. He watched her cross the room. She felt every step of it. "You came," he said, when she reached the table. "You said I would." "I did." Something moved in his eyes, warm, brief, gone before she could name it. "I'm glad I was right." He held her chair. She sat. He returned to his own seat across from her, and for a moment they simply looked at each other across the candlelit table, the quiet restaurant humming softly around them, and she had the strange sensation that the rest of the world had moved several miles away. "You're nervous," he said. "I'm not." "Your bracelet." His eyes dropped briefly to her wrist. "You've been turning it since you sat down." She stilled her hand immediately. Felt warmth climb her neck. "You notice too much," she said. "I notice you." Simple. Direct. No apology in it. "I've been trying to figure out why since the party. And I haven't figured it out yet." He picked up the menu. Leather bound, no prices, and glanced at it briefly before setting it back down. "I already ordered for us. I hope that's acceptable." "Is it?" His mouth curved. Just slightly. "No, I don't know yet. Depends what you ordered. What if I ordered something you hate? Then I'd tell you." She met his eyes. "I'm not the kind of person who eats things she doesn't like to be polite." Something in his expression shifted, sharpened, almost. Like she'd said something that pleased him in a way he hadn't anticipated. "Good," he said quietly. The food was extraordinary. She didn't tell him that immediately. Made him wait until the second course before she admitted it, and when she did his expression did that thing again, that brief, contained warmth, like sunlight through a crack in something that was mostly cold. They talked. That surprised her most, how easily they talked. She'd expected performance. Careful questions, strategic answers, the formal dance of two people sizing each other up across a table. Instead, it was conversation. Real conversation, the kind that moved quickly and doubled back on itself and went places she hadn't planned to go. He asked about her. Not the surface things, not what she studied or where she traveled. Deeper things. What she thought about. What made her angry. What she wanted that she hadn't told her father she wanted. She answered more than she meant to. You don't like being decorative, he said, somewhere in the middle of the third course. Did I say that? Not exactly. He was watching her the way he'd watched her at the party, that steady, complete attention that made her feel simultaneously seen and exposed. You said you help your father with logistics. Numbers. You said it was boring. A pause. But the way you said it wasn't bored. It was contained. Like someone describing a room they've been locked in. Zara was quiet for a moment. He thinks he's protecting me, she said finally. Keeping me on the edges. If I don't know too much, nobody can use me as leverage. That's not protection. Dante's voice was even. That's limitation dressed up as care. The accuracy of it hit somewhere tender. He loves me, she said. I don't doubt it. His eyes held hers. Love and limitation aren't mutually exclusive. She looked at him across the candlelight. This man who was supposed to be dangerous and cold and calculating, sitting across from her saying things that landed with the particular precision of someone who had thought carefully about what was true before speaking. You're not what I expected, she said. What did you expect? Someone who performed. She tilted her head. Most men in your world perform. Power, authority, control, they wear it like a costume. Make sure everyone can see it. She paused. You don't perform. Something moved across his face. Something she couldn't quite read. No, he said. I don't. Why not? A pause. Long enough that she thought he wouldn't answer. Because I stopped needing to a long time ago. His eyes dropped briefly to the candle between them, then back to her. Power that needs to be displayed isn't power. It's insecurity. A beat. I know what I am. I don't need anyone else to. The candle flickered. In the warm light, his face was different than it was in public. Still sharp, still contained, still carrying that quality of immense control. But there were lines she hadn't noticed before. A tiredness around his eyes that wasn't weakness, more like the particular exhaustion of someone who had been the most powerful person in every room for a very long time and found it, occasionally, lonely. She wondered if he knew she could see it. From the slight shift in his expression, she thought he did. And she thought he'd let her see it anyway. Dessert came and went. The restaurant had emptied around them without her noticing. At some point the other tables had quietly cleared, the staff moving like shadows, until it was just the two of them in the candlelit room. You did that, she said, looking around. I reserved the restaurant. The whole restaurant. I wanted to talk to you without interruption. She looked back at him. That's excessive. Probably. No apology. No embarrassment. Just that steady gray gaze and the faintest suggestion of something at the corner of his mouth. Was it? She thought about the evening, the conversation, the food, the way 2 hours had passed like 20 minutes, the way she'd answered questions she'd never answered for anyone. No, she admitted. His expression did something complicated. Like relief and satisfaction and something rawer than both, all at once, controlled immediately but not before she saw it. Zara. Her name in his mouth. Low. Like it meant something specific. I want to see you again. You said that would happen regardless of what my father thought. It will. A pause. But I'm asking you. Not your father. You. She looked at him across the guttering candle. This was the moment. She knew it, the pivot point, the place where she could smile politely and say something noncommittal and get back in the car and go home and chalk the whole evening up to curiosity satisfied. She could feel him watching her think. You're waiting, she said. I'm patient. Most men aren't. I'm not most men. No, he really wasn't. One condition, she said. Something sharpened in his eyes. Name it. Honesty. She held his gaze. I grew up around men who said one thing and meant another. who performed and maneuvered and treated every conversation like a negotiation. She kept her voice even. I won't do that. And I won't have it done to me. The sharp thing in his eyes deepened into something else. Something that looked almost like recognition. Honesty, he repeated. Complete. Even when it's inconvenient. A pause that lasted exactly long enough. Agreed, he said. Quietly. Like a promise rather than a concession. She nodded once. Outside, the city moved through its Saturday night, loud and bright and indifferent. Inside, the last candle between them burned low, throwing warm light across the space that separated them, and Zara thought that the space felt somehow smaller than it had at the beginning of the evening. Not because either of them had moved. Just because something had shifted. Quietly. Irreversibly. The way things shifted when they were already decided. In the car on the way home she sat with her hands folded in her lap and watched the city pass and tried very hard not to smile. She failed completely.